Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day 540, September 5th, 2018, Wednesday. That's right, it's Wednesday, and of course you know what happens on Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I take out the trash and I have chicken. Every Wednesday, I take out the trash and I have chicken. Well, let's get to the news here. Well, I imagine most of you saw that freak show that was the Judge Kavanaugh opening day hearings. What a disaster. In the first 40 minutes, there were 40 interruptions. What's this all about? Well, it's all about politics. That's all it's about. The Democrats know that they can't stop Judge Kavanaugh. He's going to be confirmed. Period. And what kind of politics are we looking at? What this is that the Democrats have cast their pearls into the sea of hope. And what they're hoping for is that they can energize the most extreme left wing of their base, who they plan on screwing at every available opportunity. They have a big problem. The most active part of their base is their far left-wing radicals, but the corporate donors don't like these people. And so what they have to do is they have to try to radicalize and motivate the far left wing of their base to hopefully get the vote out, because they believe that that's what's going to help them win back the Congress and win in 2020. While at the same time they have to turn around then at the convention in 2020 and screw these very people, just as they did before. But they're counting on these people being extra stupid, the type of people you can fool and fool and fool and fool again. And they never realize, because they're easily manipulated. And why is that? Because the Democratic Party is selling misery. Misery. And misery loves company. And I don't know if you've noticed, folks, but go talk to any far left winger. What you'll notice is that they're not happy unless they're miserable. It's being miserable, and misery is what makes them happy. They have to be protesting, everything. But what we've also learned about the far left wing of this particular dysfunctional party is that these far left wingers, they love to riot, they love to protest, they love to scream and yell and cackle and do all kind of crazy things and have marches. But when it comes election day, they can't find their ways to the voting booth unless they're bussed there by Soros. But the average person sitting back watching these hearings today has to be looking at this spectacle and going, man, do I want these people actually controlling government? Not really, because they look crazy. And what's actually more disturbing about this is that Judge Kavanaugh had his wife, his mother, and his two young daughters there. They had to actually get his daughters out of there because they didn't want them to see and hear what was going on. You could actually hear, I don't know how many of you watched any of these hearings, but you could actually hear, even after they arrested and removed, I don't know if they arrested, they removed 2-3 dozen people out of the chamber, you could hear them screaming outside, "Ah! Ah!" I mean, you could hear it outside the chamber, loud and clear. It was like crazy people. It was like the Democrats took a couple buses to the local facility where they hold mentally ill people and loaded up the whole bus full of them and dropped them off in the chamber. They're like crazy people, howling and wailing and cackling and hackling. I mean, my God. How embarrassing. And this is what they think is going to help them win. This is a dysfunctional party. Sane Democrats in red states are horrified. They're in tough elections right now. This is not helping. This is not helping. And you notice when they talk to these Democrats in these red states who are in tough elections about what they think about Judge Kavanaugh, they're very moderate in their tone. It's like we have the Jekyll Hyde Democratic Party. You've got certain ones like Pelosi and her group who feel that they're perfectly safe, who will go out and say all this crazy stuff. And then you have the crazy, rotten Reverend Clinton. And keep in mind, folks, these are people from the resistance. These people are not smart enough to make it there on their own, believe me. They were bussed there and promised lunch at McDonald's and probably paid $50. These people are paid. These are paid people who are mentally ill. That's who they are. I mean, that's what's going on here. It's a complete production. Another George Soros, Rotten Reverend Clinton production. It's exactly what you're witnessing. And it's going to backfire like everything else. They're in a tough position, the Democrats, because in their mind, they feel like they can't win unless they motivate the far left wing of their base, because they think that's where the energy is. But when they do that, they piss off all those normal Democrats in the Midwest and in the South and in the Southwest who look at it and go, holy smoke, man, this party. I mean, that's why you got the walk away movement. A lot of these people are blue-collar workers who just their families were Democrats, and so they've been voting Democrat. But they're seeing this stuff too. And they know their situation has improved greatly under Trump with his tax cuts, reworking these trade deals. I've never seen a political party commit, well, actually I have seen the Democrats commit this type of suicide. They of course did it back in the 80s in their wigged out response to Ronald Reagan. They went to the hard left and thought that was the solution to their problem. They couldn't understand how Ronald Reagan could be elected 2 times. And it drove them nuts. And they went far left. And they got their ass kicked. It wasn't until Bill Clinton came along, the centrist, and completely disassociated himself from the left wing and said, hey, I'm not like those Democrats. I'm a new Democrat. I'm a centrist. I'm actually kind of conservative on the economic stuff. I'm kind of conservative, and I'm common sense on the other things. Bill Clinton ran and literally came back and rescued the Democratic Party because he was despite the fact that he's got the morals of an alley cat and he's a convicted rapist and pervert, the fact of the matter is the man knows election politics. And he understood exactly why the Democratic Party was getting their asses kicked. And he understood exactly how to work that out. And he came up with this triangulation strategy. He said, I'm going to paint myself as a centrist. I'm a Southern Democrat, so that he could be kind of thrown into that blue dog territory. He basically said, hey, I'm not like the other Democrats you've seen in the past decade. I'm actually, I'm a moderate Democrat. I'm a new Democrat. I'm a centrist Democrat. He rescued that party. And what's crazy about this is, if you remember back during the 2016 election, it was Bill Clinton that was telling the Rotten Reverend and all the people around her, hey, you guys aren't running this campaign right. You're going to get beat. You're appealing to the wrong people. And if you remember, what happened was a lot of people around the campaign, Robbie Mook and others, started telling the Rotten Reverend Clinton and Huma that, hey, you need to get Slick Willie out of here. He's gumming up the works. He's criticizing what we're doing. He doesn't think we're doing the right stuff. Who's running this campaign, we or him? You need to shut Slick Willie down. So they basically had to try to brush Slick Willie off to the side. But he was right. The advice he was giving them was exactly correct. If Bill Clinton were running that campaign, Hillary might have won. Who knows? They wouldn't listen to him. I mean, the man's, I despise the man, but his political skills are quite good. I don't know if they are what they used to be, because he's not what he used to be mentally, but when Bill Clinton was on his game, he was about as good as it gets. And he definitely understands that the Democratic Party is going in the wrong direction. He's made that statement. That's why they've pushed him out into the pasture. Along that with, of course, his being on the wrong side of the Me Too movement. I mean, he's probably the only guy in that entire damn party that if they would allow him to work it out, he's probably the only guy I'm aware of right now that seems halfway sane enough to get it straightened out and tell them exactly what they're doing wrong and why they're doing everything incorrectly. But he's persona non grata right now. He's been kind of pushed to the side in favor of the left-wing radicalism. And I'm sure he sees it. He knows exactly what's going on. I mean, not a damn thing he can do to stop it. So, there you go. That's the state of the Kavanaugh hearings. If I was Grassley, what I would do, the very first 10 seconds before he even got into the first paragraph of his opening statement, you had that idiot Kamala Harris calling for the hearings to be adjourned. You know what I would do if I were Grassley? I'd call a vote about midnight tonight. I'd get my 51 votes, and I'd call it a day. And then tomorrow, when the Democrats are screaming bloody murder, I'd say, well, hey, you said you wanted to adjourn it. You said it should be ended. You said it was over. We already know that you've decided. And we know that Chucky the Cuck Schumer put together a plot over the weekend because some of the information has been leaked, that this was their entire plan, to obstruct the entire hearings. and if anything, to try to delay it and push it so that they don't get this done. And it's totally about politics. It's totally about proving to the far left wing of their base that they can be assholes, just like them. That's all it's about. The man is perfectly qualified. Perfectly qualified. And he's not even a far right winger. He's a paleocon. My oh my. Well, it looks like the replacement has been made for Senator Magoo. And it looks like it's going to be Jon Kyl. Well, that's better than Cindy McCain, but Jon Kyl, he's still deep state, hardcore establishment, was a senator for Arizona for years. Yeah, it's better than Cindy Magoo, but Jon Kyl, he's not on the Trump train, trust me. And he was a very good friend of Magoo's and the Magoo family. Whether or not he will try to do the types of things Magoo did, whether or not they ever had a conversation or have some sort of a pact, I don't know. But you can expect that Jon Kyl's not going to be on the Trump train. But we'll see how that works out. But it looks like it's going to be Jon Kyl replacing Senator Magoo. Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch. The FBI has no interest in an internal investigation into the Rotten Reverend Clinton's illegal server, despite the fact that the Rotten Reverend Clinton's criminal behavior allowed China to hack that server, and during that time, 18 to 20 CIA assets were murdered. National security was compromised, despite the fact that it is mandatory to perform a damage assessment after any suspected breach. They refused to do so. No shit, Sherlock Christopher Wray, the FBI and with her director, needs to go, right along with Rodenstein and Sessions, unless Sessions has a master plan and he starts indicting people in the next 60 days. That's about how much time he's got, because a few hours after the midterms are over, he's probably going to be looking for work. You know, really, he should just go back. He should resign and then go back to Alabama and run for that Senate seat. It'll be back up again in 2020. No one really likes the guy that's there now, obviously the Democrat who won because of the freak show that turned into. Sessions should go back to his old Senate seat, or something from Alabama and just resign rather than sit through any more embarrassment. Unless he's got a master plan. And if he does, he better be acting very quickly. But yes, if you're going to go ahead and get rid of Sessions and Rodenstein, which we should, in my opinion, then yes, go ahead and get rid of no shit Sherlock Christopher Wray as well. Clearly, he has no interest whatsoever in real crimes because they're committed by the Rotten Reverend Clinton. We have Iran's foreign minister admitting that his regime works closely with George Soros's Open Society. Of course. every crazy regime and color revolution, anti-revolutionary group in the world is in bed with the Open Society of George Soros, which works closely with organizations that are part of the Rotten Reverend Clinton's groups. It's all one big cabal. Okay, following up on a story that we talked about the other day with Loretta Lynch forcing through the FISA application using an obscure loophole, the Gateway Pundit is reporting that Attorney General Sessions and Rodenstein, too, may have pushed through these FISA renewals after Trump took office. But not only that, we now learn that Obama himself would have had to have approved the Carter Page FISA and the 3 renewals as well. Or at least ways 2 of the renewals, because he was, one of the renewals, because he would have been gone for the second and third one, I believe. Certainly the third one, but possibly even, he would have been gone for the third one as well. So at least the original and one of the renewals, Obama would have had to sign off on that. Who signed off on the other 2? If in fact they used the same technique, using this obscure loophole to get around the FISA court. This needs to be looked at much, much closer. Oh, I'm sure that Sessions and Rodenstein and no shit Sherlock Christopher Wray will be all over it, right? Of course, we all remember what happened with the Red Hen throwing Sarah Sanders out. Of course, what has happened now is, of course, the lady who was the co-owner and who was behind that deal, she was forced to resign from this city business council that they had. She was like the head of this local business council in Lexington, Virginia, where this restaurant's located. She was forced to resign from that committee as the head of it. And now it's not just the fact that the Red Hen lost their 5-star rating, which is now dropped to a 2-star rating, but many other businesses in town have been hurt since that. Their businesses really fallen off because people just don't want to go to Lexington, Virginia and support that town because of what was done at the Red Hen. So it looks like the chickens have come home to roost. So that small town, now their council is getting together and trying to figure out what they can do to bring business back. A lot of small business owners there have been hurt badly because of that idiot with the pink pussy hat, along with her husband and her poor son who's being indoctrinated into this crap. So it's come back to bite them in the ass. It's the Trump curse. Do not mess with Trump. It generally doesn't work out well for you, Uncle Bob. Rahm Dead Fish Emanuel, of course, will not be seeking re-election in Chi-Town. He's not real popular. And why is he not seeking re-election? Because he has zero chance. In fact, he would get smoked. They don't like dead fish very much there in Chicago anymore. In fact, you have a bunch of community leaders begging Trump to come in and fix the problem. I believe they had 25 more murders over the weekend and another 60-some-odd shootings. Unbelievable. Yeah, and you wonder why they call him Dead Fish. He sent a dead fish to a political opponent of his years ago during a political campaign. Guy opened up his front door and there was a dead fish and fish wrap laying on his front porch. Dead Fish Emanuel. He's a dead fish in Chi-Town and a dead fish politically speaking from this point forward. He was in the Bill Clinton administration, of course. Well, Senator Magoo is gone, but his many crimes will continue to be uncovered for years to come, and I'll make sure of it. As we talked about a couple weeks ago, Magoo was a very key player in the effort to target Tea Party groups. The Washington Times' latest article shows that Magoo was using his chief of staff, Mr. Koerner, who we've talked about, to urge the IRS Commissioner Lois Lerner to target conservatives who were opposed, and specifically the Tea Party, who were opposed to Obamunism. So thanks to Judicial Watch, they have received papers from 2013 proving that Magoo and Democratic Senator Carl Levin were working together on this plot. The documents show that Magoo's chief of staff, Mr. Koerner, did advise and show techniques on how to harass these nonprofits so that they could not operate. Now, a spokesman from McCain's office has responded and is denying these claims. Oh, really? I've read some of the stuff on Judicial Watch's website. These are actual documents he got through a FOIA request. You cannot argue the facts. Senator Magoo's office. Those are the facts. And of course, we just learned a couple weeks ago that it was Senator Magoo who met with Confusion GPS, Glenn Simpson, on at least 2 occasions, with other people present in those meetings, and that he in fact provided documents of individuals who were known to be Russians who were under scrutiny or investigation, and he passed their names over to Confusion GPS just to make sure that the individuals on that list that Glenn Simpson could get a hold of would be in that meeting. All those people in that meeting, they were there because Glenn Simpson was able to get them there. And why them? Because they were on the list of names Senator Magoo turned over to them in these meetings. Senator Magoo, the crimes of Mr. Magoo will continue to be unveiled for years to come. Not to mention his overall major role in the coup, which will be exposed. the Loonie Left. The Loonie Left wing legacy media is still trying to run the false poll strategy, predicting the blue wave. Really? You can't, it's hard to imagine. I mean, it worked so well in 2016, I guess. Maybe they think they'll do it again. Maybe they think they just didn't do enough of it last time. If they'd have done a little more, it actually would have worked. But they're continuing the fake polls. But CNN's ratings are now the lowest ever. They just took an even bigger nosedive in August after falling behind the Gardening Channel and a show about aliens from another world. The NFL ratings are down 9.7% since 2017. And 2018 will likely not show much of a rebound. MTV, the MTV Music Awards, had the lowest rating in their history. Michelle Wolf had her show canceled after 3 months. Hollywood just had the worst attended summer movie season in 25 years. And Trump rallies are getting larger and larger. Do not believe the fake news, fake polls. Go vote. This is all designed to make people think, well, the Democrats are going to take back Congress. It's just futile. Why bother going out and vote? The Democrats are going to win the House in 2018. They're going to win it all in 2018. So if you're a Republican, don't even bother going out to vote. Just stay home because the polls are telling us it's going to be a big blue wave for the Dems. Bullshit. Bullshit. Fake polls. Do you all remember? I can't wait till the morning after the 2018 midterms, and even better, the morning after the 2020 election when Trump wins in a massive landslide. The meltdown that we saw in 2016 will pale in comparison to what we're going to see in 2020, and 2018 should be quite the show as well. I'll be tuning in, cook up some popcorn for that one, and a couple of cold beers maybe. So now we know at least one reason why Michael Flynn's sentencing has been delayed. We have some Justice Department officials who are telling reporters at the True Pundit that Mueller, Uncle Bob, the executioner, has tried to silence Flynn to keep him from getting involved in the midterm elections. Uncle Bob, the executioner, Mueller, apparently has threatened Flynn with charges of obstruction of justice if he endorses or campaigns for any GOP candidates in the midterms that are aligned with Trump. Is that illegal? Yes, it's very illegal. Mueller is committing a crime, multiple crimes, multiple felonies, witness tampering, coercion, wire fraud, and other possible violations. The Mueller investigation needs to be shut down, and Uncle Bob needs to be arrested immediately. But what's interesting about this story is that we're now seeing in the past couple of months, we're starting to see leaks coming out from the Justice Department in favor of Trump and opposed to the Mueller investigation. We're starting to see that. We know that Sarah Carter, she's been getting stuff coming from the Justice Department. We've had Paul Sperry getting information. We've had the guy over at the Gateway Pundit, Chuck Ross. We've had Byron York at the Washington Examiner. There are people now at the DOJ who are leaking information to the good guys in the media. After months and months and months of nothing but negative coming from the other side of the aisle, we're now seeing some people within the DOJ on the other side who are leaking this information because this is exactly where this came from. And these DOJ people know this. They know. They've given this information to the True Pundit, and they said, we are aware. There are various people aware in the Department of Justice what is going on. We know that Uncle Bob, the executioner, Mueller, has threatened Michael Flynn, telling him that he cannot go out and campaign for any Trump candidates. And if he does, Uncle Bob's threatening to charge him with obstruction, because Uncle Bob's trying to make the case and tell Flynn that, well, you see, if you're campaigning for candidates that support Trump, then if they win and the Republicans control Congress, then that could be used to shut down my investigation. So therefore, you're campaigning for people for the very purpose of shutting down my investigation, which is in the process of sentencing you. Therefore, you're obstructing. You see, Uncle Bob's playing fast and loose with the law. Fast and loose with the law. And, obviously, I want to see the rotten Reverend Clinton in leg chains more than anything you can imagine. But I almost want to see Uncle Bob himself strung up more than anyone. I really do. He's pissed me off at this point beyond the point of belief. Really has. And he's committed massive crimes. Like I said, Trump should declassify the entire Mueller investigation. And it's not so much what we're going to learn. Obviously, he's interviewed a lot of people. But what will be learned is the fact that he would have uncovered and known about crimes that he did not prosecute. His entire investigation will be revealed as being nothing more than a cover-up for the previous crimes and to be part of the continued coup. These are high-level crimes, and Uncle Bob is up to his eyeballs in all of it. And I certainly hope that members of Congress, especially after the midterm elections when we get more Trump-type Republicans in the Congress, and hopefully we get Jim Jordan as Speaker, I hope they go after these guys as hard as they possibly can. As hard as they possibly can. And if Sessions doesn't lower the boom on some folks here in the next 2 months, I do hope Trump will replace both he and Rodenstein, along with no-shit Sherlock Christopher Wray, the FBI and with her director, clean out the entire House, put some real people in there who will really go after the real criminals and the real crimes and hang them high. They should all be castrated, stretched, and quartered, and then tried for their crimes and hanged, and then cremated, and then bludgeoned. And then we should talk about some real punishment. Josh Hawley is in a dead heat with Claire McCaskill in Missouri in that Senate race. Uh-oh. What does that tell us? Well, we know that in the generic balloting, Democrats get a 2 to 5, sometimes anywhere, usually as little as 2, as much as 5% benefit in these sort of generic polls, just because of the way they're conducted and the fact that there's more registered Democrats. But we all know that these elections are about turnouts. So if you look at this right now, if Josh Hawley and people are just now beginning to pay attention, we just ended Labor Day. People don't really start tuning in to their elections until like the end of September. Kids are all back in school. They're back to the grind. Summer's over. The weather's changing. They start focusing a little bit more. And in November, they start getting all the robocalls, here come the commercials, here come all the tweets, the text, the face. Here comes the whole damn thing. And it's about that time that people start thinking about it. And then the last week or two before the election, right after those GDP numbers come out, is when people really start making their decision. And if you look at Trump's strength in a place like Missouri, especially in a big city like St. Louis, if it's true, what we've been seeing is that Trump's been polling at about 10% better with blacks, almost double with black voters than he won with in 2016. That's a huge factor in a big city like St. Louis. He's getting more support probably from women as well, Latinos, from everybody. His support across all categories has probably gone up. What this tells me is if this race is a dead heat right now, based on the way this polling is done, and based on where I think this election is going to be a turnout election, which is going to be a huge turnout, I think, for Trump's people. We're going to turn out big time. I think this tells me that McCaskill has been defeated already. It'll be a close race. I mean, I predict it'll be within 2-3 points. I don't think it will be close at all. But I do believe that Josh Hawley is going to win that race in Missouri. And he should, because Claire McCaskill, quite honestly, she sucks. She sucks. A new poll is now showing that a majority of blue-collar workers are better off under Trump. This is what they're saying about when they're asked. Blue-collar workers are saying in a new poll that they are better off under Trump. Now, this is, again, exactly what I'm saying. Trump is doing a lot of what Reagan did. You know, Reagan got a lot of blue-collar Democrats to vote for him. And I think Trump's having even more success than Reagan. Because these people aren't stupid. They may have been voting Democrat all their life. They may even be in a labor union. Many of them are. But these people have never been happy about the Democratic Party selling them out on the trade deals. That's one of the major issues for almost any Democrat who's in the labor union. The trade deals. Talk to any Democrat in the union, and they may just totally despise a Republican, especially Trump. But when you talk about trade deals, most blue-collar Democrats, especially in labor unions, will tell you that they think the trade deals that we've been involved in have been devastating to them. So here you have Trump winning big on these trade deals. It resonates with these people, believe me, especially in the Rust Belt, in the South, and even in the Southwest. Places like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio, and even Illinois, although Illinois is, you know, pretty much a lost cause at this point because there's just so many people in Chicago, and it's such a left-wing city, and the politics are so corrupt. The Democrats have owned Chicago politics forever, and I mean, I don't think the Republicans even compete there. Although Reagan carried Illinois. Yes, he did, twice. Nixon carried Illinois. At least once, maybe twice. Don't underestimate 2020, Trump winning in some places like Illinois. Do not underestimate it. On California, don't underestimate a Republican winning in 2020. I don't know if they'll win in the governor in 2016 or 2018. It's possible. But, you know, if things continue on their current trend, things continue going the way they are, I think a lot of those places could be in play in 2020. Ignore the left-wing legacy media trying to play games with the polls. It's just like election night. I remember election night. Many of you do as well. I remember I had like 5 or 6 windows open. I had the New York Times. I had the Young Turks. I had Styx Hexenheimer, who was doing a podcast that night. I had Fox. I think I had ABC. I had about 6 or 7. And I just kept going back and forth looking at them. And as the voting first started that night, the only thing they were talking about in the left wing was how big Hillary was going to win. Was it going to be a landslide of epic biblical proportions, the biggest landslide election victory in history? Or was she going to win with, like, 400 electoral votes? And was she going to win 50 states? And all this. But I remember as soon as they called Florida, the faces of these left-wingers just went white. As soon as Trump won Florida, that the whole tone changed. At that point, it got very serious. And then the rest of the night was just absolutely grueling and hilarious for me. I was rolling on the floor laughing at watching it. And the meltdown was probably, the meltdown videos are the best. I mean, they're archived classics. There'll be people watching those for long after I've left this earth and laughing at them as well. It's coming back. The same damn thing. There's no blue wave coming. I'm telling you that right now. There's no way. With Trump polling as well as he's polling, with blue-collar workers, with the success he's having on these trade deals, with the tax cuts, with the constant attacks that he's under by the left-wing lunatics, the fact that people are walking away from their party in droves, the fact that they're catering to the most extreme leftist of their party, which is driving, that too is also driving normal Democrats away. The 4.3 GDP, that number is likely to be at least 4%, maybe 4.5%, just 2 weeks before the November midterms. The only thing they have going for them is Uncle Bob. That's it. And Uncle Bob is in a very risky business, because if he goes for the king's head, that would be Trump. If he goes for the king's head, if he swings for the king's head and misses, in other words, if he tries to drop the impeachment case on Trump before the midterms, and Trump wins, the Republicans win and hold the House, Trump's going to clean house at the DOJ. Sessions and Rodenstein will be gone. I think Wray may be gone as well. And I think this time he won't be fooled into letting other people tell him to put establishment hacks in there. I think he'll sit down with these people who are his nominees or people he's looking at and ask them directly. Tell them, hey, I'm not bringing you in to go do the same thing these guys did. If I make you Attorney General, do you have the balls to go clean that mess up and hold the criminals accountable? If not, there's a fucking door. There you go. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow. You guys have a very good night. See ya. Bye.